It seems around here every town is a sports town. And why not? Sports were important to us growing up, and we want the same for our kids. To get involved, to compete, because that's how kids learn to lead. And why Farmers Union Insurance supports these programs. They know sports aren't just about building skill and strength, but about building character. Farmers Union Insurance. They don't just protect our community, they invest in it.
I'm Tegan Mason.
I'm Carson Hamill.
I'm Andrew Odden.
On behalf of Mason Ox Ranch.
From everyone here at Odden Charlet.
And on behalf of the Scattered Star Ranch.
From our family to yours.
From the Phillip community, I just want to say thank you.
We thank you.
Thank you.
I would like to thank you, the consumers.
We thank you for choosing beef.
Thank you for choosing beef.
It seems around here every town is a sports town. And why not? Sports were important to us growing up, and we want the same for our kids. To get involved, to compete, because that's how kids learn to lead. And why Farmers Union Insurance supports these programs. They know sports aren't just about building skill and strength, but about building character. Farmers Union Insurance. They don't just protect our community, they invest in it.
I'm Tegan Mason.
I'm Carson Hamill.
I'm Andrew Odden.
On behalf of Mason Ox Ranch.
From everyone here at Odden Charlet.
And on behalf of the Scattered Star Ranch.
From our family to yours.
From the Phillip community, I just want to say thank you.
We thank you.
Thank you.
I would like to thank you, the consumers.
We thank you for choosing beef.
Thank you for choosing beef.
It seems around here every town is a sports town. And why not? Sports were important to us growing up, and we want the same for our kids. To get involved, to compete, because that's how kids learn to lead. And why Farmers Union Insurance supports these programs. They know sports aren't just about building skill and strength, but about building character. Farmers Union Insurance. They don't just protect our community, they invest in it.
I'm Tegan Mason.
I'm Carson Hamill.
I'm Andrew Odden.
On behalf of Mason Ox Ranch.
From everyone here at Odden Charlet.
And on behalf of the Scattered Star Ranch.
From our family to yours.
From the Phillip community, I just want to say thank you.
We thank you.
Thank you.
I would like to thank you, the consumers.
We thank you for choosing beef.
Thank you for choosing beef.
It seems around here every town is a sports town. And why not? Sports were important to us growing up, and we want the same for our kids. To get involved, to compete, because that's how kids learn to lead. And why Farmers Union Insurance supports these programs. They know sports aren't just about building skill and strength, but about building character. Farmers Union Insurance. They don't just protect our community, they invest in it.
I'm Tegan Mason.
I'm Carson Hamill.
I'm Andrew Odden.
On behalf of Mason Ox Ranch.
From everyone here at Odden Charlet.
And on behalf of the Scattered Star Ranch.
From our family to yours.
From the Phillip community, I just want to say thank you.
We thank you.
Thank you.
I would like to thank you, the consumers.
We thank you for choosing beef.
Thank you for choosing beef.
It seems around here every town is a sports town. And why not? Sports were important to us growing up, and we want the same for our kids. To get involved, to compete, because that's how kids learn to lead. And why Farmers Union Insurance supports these programs. They know sports aren't just about building skill and strength, but about building character. Farmers Union Insurance. They don't just protect our community, they invest in it.
I'm Tegan Mason.
I'm Carson Hamill.
I'm Andrew Auden.
On behalf of Mason Knox Ranch,
From everyone here at Auden Charlet,
And on behalf of the Scattered Star Ranch,
From our family to yours,
From the Phillip community, I just want to say thank you.
We thank you.
thank you.
I would like to thank you, the consumers.
We thank you for choosing beef.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Go ahead and call the meeting to order. Motion to approve the agenda as presented. No changes or adoptions. So moved. Thank you, Marty. Second. Thank you, Mr. Gajkowski. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Conflicts disclosure? None. Public communications? None. All right, brings us to our first action item, return to school policy, COVID. The reason for the meeting here tonight, gentlemen, is most of us probably know the CDC modified its guidelines yesterday, and I thought I'd make sure I read them straight from the information that's been provided so that we're all on the same sheet of music. I thought it was important that we had a meeting to discuss whether we wanted to change our return to school policy or keep it the same based upon the CDC guidelines. So the CDC guidelines here are as follows. I've just got to page through them because there's quite a bit here. Apologize. Okay. 2 acceptable alternative quarantine periods. A quarantine can end after just 7 days if a person tests negative for the virus at some point in the final 2 days of that period. That, our policy previously had only been day 7. Now it's 2 days of that period, which I read to be days 6 or 7. The test can be either a rapid response antigen test or a more reliable PCR test that takes longer. Alternatively, the quarantine can end after 10 days without a test if a person monitors any potential symptoms, such as fever, on a daily basis and has none. They are expected to continue monitoring symptoms and wearing a mask for the full 14 days despite discontinuing the quarantine.
So that's the last 4 after the 10 then?
Yep. So they want, even if you couldn't get a test, instead of right now in our school district, you have to wait till day 14. Now you could be at day 10. One of the interesting things about this, the CDC answered one of the questions that you were asking, in my opinion, meetings ago. CDC scientists calculated that for people discontinuing quarantine after 7 days, quote, residual post-quarantine transmission risk is about 5%, with an upper limit of 12%. The risk drops to 1% for those who quarantined for 10 days under the new guidance, with an upper limit of 10%. They said they think it's in the best interest of public health, the economy, best interest of the mental health
of people who have been quarantined. They're looking at hopefully encouraging more people to be more active in testing and being honest with contact tracers. So that was the new guidance that was announced yesterday. Do we want to change what we're doing with our current back to school plan, or do we want to keep it the same, or is there some type of modification in there?
Just to clarify that, they're saying, with the first one that you're talking about, they're saying that there's a 5 to 12% transmission rate after quarantine on option one, not an option, but on number one there, 5 to 12% transmission rate after the 7 days.
The residual post-quarantine transmission risk, not
Yes.
rate, risk.
Risk,
Yep.
okay, yeah.
Yep, 5 to 12, and then it drops 1 to 10.
So those extra 3 days, but it's really, the high end of that is 12% after or 12% risk
Yep.
after 7 days. It only drops 2%
Yeah.
if we go 3 more
Yeah.
days. Okay. Thank you.
Which, and I also think it's important to throw out, you know, as we see COVID, I mean, it is going up in the state, there's no question about it, it's going up in our community. But I'm gonna knock on wood, the comments I'm getting from the general community is that they're not worried about the school. Everybody believes that the school's doing a very good job. I haven't had any negative comments, you know, from Jim, Lori. I mean, take that with a grain of salt, there are some, but the overwhelming majority is that people believe the school's been doing a good job of handling it and keeping the kids in class. So I think we have been doing a good job with trying to wear the masks, encouraging that. Yes, we've had kids that have tested positive, but a lot of the times the test positives have come because of an event outside of the school, and then they attract, or, you know, other kids that are just around them all that day or two afterwards when they're getting tested.
Do we know if any of the kids that have been on close contact, have any of them developed COVID?
In school, and I am not aware of a case that a student was in close contact with another student or a staff member in school and eventually contracted COVID during their quarantine time. We have had students that have been quarantined because they were close contact with a family member or a parent or something like that that did eventually get COVID, but it's probably because they were at home with a person with COVID. So as of yet, we don't have one that I can tell you where a student was on quarantine by another student or staff and eventually got it.
I think the risk would be much greater at home if you had a sibling with it versus at school. I mean, you're just
I
that far.
agree, and to be quite frank, that any negative comments I've gotten from the community, Aaron, have been when Joe Blow has COVID, but then somebody else has gone to school within that family. And then that's the only negative comments I've gotten. I have not gotten any negative comments with how.
I think we've all gotten those.
Yeah.
And I hope that people wise up to that. There's just no sense in sending family members to school and putting other kids at risk. That's just asinine. I think going from 14 to 10 is definitely something worth looking into, but is the risk lessen enough to go from 7 to 5? Meaning, what are we gaining?
Yeah, I actually think the only thing we would do on the 7 is
They can only be tested on
They could be
day
tested.
5,
They could be
not
tested
back.
on that after day 5, day 6, 7.
So it could just speed up
The testing.
the testing.
Yes.
We could just change 3 days, go to, you know.
Well, you'd still have to be at day 7, but you could get your test now
yeah,
on day,
We could leave what we have as is.
but you could get your test earlier than having to wait till day 7.
I'm saying we could leave it
Or we could leave as
as
is.
is with day 7. I'd feel
Yeah.
more comfortable with that. And as far as going from 14 to 10, You know, that's the only change I would, in my mind. I still think they're safer in school than out of school,
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
from what we've been seeing in the community.
And there's so many kids getting hit with the close contact that are having to sit at home for those 14 days. Like we're all kind of saying, they don't develop those symptoms, so let's get them back here 4 days sooner. I think that's
The way I looked at it is, you know, if you were on that close contact on a Friday, you know, now 4 of your 10 days could be a Saturday, Sunday, you'd only miss 1 week in school instead of right now, you're missing 2 weeks. I think that is a big deal. And
of course, there is one fix to that, Tom.
wear a mask.
Wear a mask.
Yeah,
Then they're back in school the same day.
I agree.
That's if they get close contact in school.
Correct.
But
That's true.
A lot of them are outside of school.
You're right.
But it is getting to be, I mean, some of these kids, I mean, number of quarantines that I know some families have been through, it's not 1, it's not 2, it's not 3, it's not 4, it's more. And you start talking 9, 10 weeks, that's a significant amount of time.
Yeah, and we all see quarantine students out and about.
Yep.
We've all seen that too, so it's when they're hungry.
I was gonna say, I've had some reports, and all I can tell parents that have concerns about that is we can certainly control that at an activity for a school, but I can't stop them from going to fair rooms or subways or something like that.
You know, I think that's one of the things the community has to remember. The school can only police the school. You know, and we're doing the best job we can. If you have questions about what's happening in the community, that's not for Jim, it's not for, you know, the school board. It's for the community and the state of South Dakota and the Department of Health. I mean, we can't control what, you know, parents do at home with their children off of school grounds. We just can't. So, I don't want to beat the horse too loud. I mean, do we want to keep, I mean, Larry, you threw out keep the 7-day as is where you're at?
Yep.
Aaron, where would you be at? And we'll just take this one at a time just to keep it moving. Where would you be at on the 7-day issue? Do you want to keep it as is, or do you want to allow them to test earlier?
I'd like to get them back sooner.
They can't come back sooner.
Well, no, but they can, if you wait till day 7 to get your test, you're still gonna wait
You can still come
2,
back.
3 days to get your test. But if you can test sooner, you can come back
Well,
on day 7 if you get your test.
That's a reason for waiting to day 7 to test. I mean, there's more time.
To develop it,
Yeah,
but no close contact is developed that we know of.
yeah, well.
That's kind of what I'm
You'd still get back in
thinking.
10 days with a mask. In close contact, without a test. So testing it, I don't know, I'm just,
Well, that's all right, Larry, you're at day 7. Aaron, you would say you could test at day,
Well, 5, if that's what they allow it.
okay?
when does day 5 start?
Is it after 5 or the 5th day?
See, I've gone
or-
through
The
this.
5th day.
5th
Yeah.
day from when?
From their, it would be from their quarantine, and their quarantine begins the day following the last day of exposure. So if I had somebody that was exposed on Monday, the 30th, their quarantine started on Tuesday, December 1st, and so the 5th day will be December 5th.
Yeah, I mean, some of these, when we say 5 days or 7 days, some of them are 10 and some are, you know.
Yeah, by the time they get.
So,
And when that person tests positive, before they can be a close contact. And if you wait 3-4 days for a result to test positive, then you go close contact, we're running more days in there.
There are some situations, I think what you're saying is, there are some situations where by the time we find out somebody's positive, technically those kids should already be in quarantine for like 3 or 4
oh, yeah,
days.
Yeah.
sure.
And
So
then they
day
can
4 is
finish.
already hit.
Day 8 for them realistically. Yeah.
In some
Yeah,
cases.
so
It's
sure.
typically 3 to 4 days is when we're finding out.
All right, Aaron, so you want to go testing early. Larry, you want day 7, you want to go days 5 to 7. Marty?
I'm looking at it and I'm thinking what Dr. Block is saying here is if it's day 3 before a lot of them are even being told that they're on a quarantine list, now we're looking at realistically, if we went to day 5, like what Aaron is saying, now we're at day 8. And if they don't have any symptoms by then, if they're, number one, what we're talking about here, if they're symptom free at that point, and they can take a test and it shows negative, I'm okay with that.
Okay. So you're okay with starting the test at day 5, 6, or 7 to return on day 7 right now?
As long
This
as it's
issue.
negative
As long
and
as
they
it's
are
negative.
and they are symptom free and they monitor their symptoms.
And wear the mask and all of our.
Yes.
Okay. Joel?
So all this is doing is speeding up the testing by 2 days. It's not speeding them up into coming back
Correct.
into school any sooner.
Correct.
I'm good with that.
Okay. I'm
But
good.
Can I add something to that
Yep.
though? What we're doing really, aside from having kids out of school a longer period of time, what we've been doing has been successful.
I agree.
So then, there's that catch-22 with it. Do we want to change it if it's been successful? But the positive side of changing it is our kids are back here quicker.
Can I just put one more thing here? What about staff? We're focused
Yes.
on the students here right now. Let's talk about staff a little bit. How would this negatively impact them or positively impact them?
Well, staff as a close contact, because they're essential workers, if they don't have symptoms,
They're back to work.
They're here.
They're here.
The only situation that they don't is if their child becomes a close contact and they can't go to daycare, they have no means to take care of their child, then there's a part of the FMLA or the CARES Act that allows those people to stay home to care for their child due to close contact with COVID.
Okay.
So,
Larry, you had something to add?
Yeah, this 3 days, sometimes it's 5 days before you get a test back.
Sure it is.
And if you do a rapid one and you get one in 15 minutes, and we're still saying 5 days. If you have a rapid test and it comes back positive, even though it might be 50% or less, all of a sudden those people are quarantined from day 1. Next one, it's 5 days, so then it's actually 10 days. That's what I don't know how to correct that, to where we're on the same.
I don't know the reliability of the rapid tests that you can get out there as the community, but I'm going to be honest, I don't really trust our rapid tests. Other than when it's positive, we pretty much like, okay, it's positive. But we get a lot of negatives with people that have some symptoms, and it's just like, it doesn't make sense.
So as with the CDC, which test do you want to use?
They were allowing both. They were using the
Which one?
They were using the rapid or the is it PCR?
I mean,
PCR.
if someone gets a rapid one, do we say, student Larry, Dr. Block, you contact trace this student, he just was rapid tested positive.
Well, if if he rapid test positive, then he's a positive, whether it's rapid or PCR.
If it's 30% accuracy or whatever.
They're still positive. Yeah.
The positive ones are usually pretty accurate.
Yeah.
If you've got enough to test positive for that, it's the negative ones that cause the problems because you can have it and it'll show up as negative.
So here's where we're at then.
They
Just
come back with the negative test. I'm just beating it a little bit more than we have to, probably.
well, I mean, unless Aaron, do you want to change? You were sticking to where you're at?
Yeah.
Marty, sticking?
Yeah.
Sticking?
Yes.
3 votes. We'll have day 5, 6, or 7. You can test back in with a negative test. You have to be symptom-free. You have to wear a mask the entire time. You have to remain symptom-free. And you can only come back again under this scenario after day 7. Even if you get the test on day 6, you're still not coming back to school until after day 7. Okay? That's issue number 1. Issue number 2, the 10 days. And this way, at the time, instead of starting with Larry, I'll hit Joel first and start working it back around.
So the quarantine can end after 10 days with no symptoms, and you have to wear a mask until day 14.
Correct.
And you have to monitor.
and you have to monitor.
I'm good with that. I think that's gonna bring a lot of kids back into school faster. Yes, I'm good with that.
Marty?
Have we, back to, and you might have already answered this, have we had any cases where towards the end of that quarantine period, I think you already answered it, but I'm just looking for.
Even with those that contracted it from a family member at home, it's usually early on.
Okay.
And in some cases, the clinics don't even want to test those things because they figure your kid's probably got it, so.
Okay, yeah.
I think this is a big deal, just throw out there, because, for example, when we've hit some of these kids, the quarantining grenade goes off, 14 kids get hit by it, you can't get, even though we talked about all the testing, you can't get a test. I mean, no matter how much you want to have the test. So they're having to ride out, until we had changed it, and especially if it happens at home right now, and there's no way to get them back in with the mask, that's 4 days that we can get them back in there sooner. And if you take that times, for example, 15 kids, that's 60 learning days. That's a significant amount of classroom time we could be regaining. So, Aaron?
Yeah, 10 days.
10? Marty? Excuse me, Larry?
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty clear. I think we should adopt the 10-day policy. You have to be symptom-free. You have to remain masked. You have to monitor your symptoms. Okay, so we've got everything knocked out, I think, with the return to school issues. Do we have any issues we need to discuss as to our activities, Jim?
I left a sheet on each of the tables there. Mr. Mines did provide, this is a list of activities that we will have prior to, say, our January board meeting. At the bottom of the sheet, you can see this is what the other schools are currently doing right now. One of the questions that has come up, and I shared this via email to you guys just as a concern, because our junior high wrestling tournament is actually going to be held on the 14th. We have a board meeting that evening, but the wrestling tournament is going to be done before you guys get to meet. So the question that we had is, do we allow 6 people per athlete when you have so many athletes participating in wrestling? And I know this is going to sound like we're working against wrestling versus basketball versus whatever, and that's not the case. The issue at hand is the capacity of the facility, the venue that you're holding, or the activity that you're hosting. For instance, the junior high tournament, the west bleachers are the only bleachers that are open. And if you have 6 people per wrestler show up, you will fill up that bleacher space very quickly. And so Mr. Mines wanted us to revisit, and he said we didn't have to do it tonight because he and I could limit what we believe is a fair way to limit it, or follow what some other schools are doing with wrestling tournaments. Clark, as I understand it, is mom and dad. That's all they allow to any event. So it's just something we probably need to discuss.
Well, I mean, let's just be realistic. And Mike, I'm going to kind of throw you under the bus here a little bit. Our numbers in our junior high program aren't super high, are they?
Our numbers are not, but this, and I don't know what COVID wrestling's going to be like.
Right.
Mr. Block's basing that on other years, and that west side is packed. Absolutely.
Well, I will say that Mr. Mines, we had already made the decision as an AD and a superintendent is that for our middle school tournament, we are going to go with what the high school limits are for teams and participants. We just thought that only makes sense. If you're only going to have this many high school participants, you really shouldn't go above that for middle school. And so the number on, if you see that wrestling for middle school on December 14th, that's actually fewer teams than what we normally have here. So I don't know about the number of participants, but we actually have more than 12 teams typically. And that's not counting Webster, so you're actually at 13. I want to be fair to every sport, but I also want to look at whatever we're hosting and what we have for the spectator area and the athletes area, that it can be somewhat distanced. It needs to be distanced in any
Well,
manner.
if we think we're gonna have a lot of people at this junior high tournament, wait till we get to the holiday tournament. I mean, there's gonna be more there. So we need to get this right. And I don't know about you guys, but when I got back to Dr. Block, I said parents only. The middle school wrestling tournament. I'm gonna take some heat for that, but I think we gotta get it right.
And it was asked if Bearcats TV could broadcast that, and I think you guys would be able to do something with that. It would probably be a widescreen where, because I'm assuming there's more than one match that goes on at a time at the tournaments.
Well, I think it's important to remember, we want to be fair to all sports. We want to be fair to the kids. We want to give the athletes a shot. But this isn't the difference between a volleyball, basketball thing is that there's 12 schools that we're bringing into our community. I mean,
versus 2.
Yeah, versus 2. You know, I mean, and 12 schools is an awful lot of schools. I mean, they talk about not traveling in the first place, and now we got 12 coming into a community. I think that the smarter answer is absolutely just parents on the junior high and on these type of wrestling events that are more than just a duel, Webster versus Milbank. You know, that's just a different story at that point in time.
Yeah, I think so. I mean,
Just
I just got
parents.
to thinking, if we want to try to allow some spectators in, let's try to line up a few more duels or triangulars or
Yeah.
something to let more spectators come in. But if I'm that student athlete, working as hard as them wrestlers work,
You want to be.
I don't care who's there, I want to be able to compete.
Right.
Maybe I'm wrong there, but
And I point out, you're not changing the competition, you're changing the bleachers.
right.
That's right.
The reality is, if we had a major outbreak beyond what we're already experiencing across the state due to ridiculously large crowds, that's going to jeopardize any sport.
Right.
Yeah.
Eventually, it's going to jeopardize the fact that they even exist.
All right, if we're okay then with the wrestling in the middle school being just parents, and, you know, I think that there's nothing wrong with, you know, Jim and Adam having, you know, some authority to make decisions based upon the facts and circumstances as they present themselves with these extracurricular activities. That's what we hire Adam and Jim to make those decisions. I don't think that we need to bring every issue back to the board unless a board member brings it up for a special meeting or a meeting. We can have a special meeting at a moment's notice, but right now, Jim, when it comes to these events, you know, we might be in this situation when we get to, I don't know, track is outdoor, indoor, but whatever it is, go ahead with, is the board okay with Adam and Jim making these decisions as they see in the best interest? You okay with that, Aaron? Larry? Marty? Joel?
Yes.
And I can't speak for Adam, but what I would say is we probably will look and see what's kind of the common trend among schools and go that route. And so it might not be popular here if we go with fewer than what we have been, but it might be more consistent with what most schools are doing anyway. Which our spectators they'll get a taste of that whether they're home or not, because if other schools are limiting it to parents, you don't get to buck their rules. That's their rules, and you need to follow them.
We play, I mean, boys and girls play in Clark this year, don't they, for basketball?
At least one will, I think. I don't know if they have both.
I mean, that's obviously parents only. Milbank parents only, for even basketball.
Do we want to look at having the administration have the authority to change the tickets from 6-4 to whatever it may be based on the event or whatever? So the policy, right now we're at 6. And if we have an event where we expect a larger crowd, Should the administration be able to say, okay, it's 2 tickets or 4
That's
tickets?
exactly where I was going with that. If we're having a large, say it's a wrestling tournament, and we expect, well, 100 athletes participating, what I'm probably gonna do is a little bit of math. What
Yep.
would you have if you had 6 spectators coming in with both bleachers open? You're gonna have to downsize that number automatically because you're not gonna have as much seating space. And then kinda just do a ratio so that it's similar in size based on the number of participants. Not the sport, but the number of participants.
And I think you need to look at, kind of some historical averages, if we're only bringing 4, the other 10 teams only bringing 6,
Yeah, duels and triangulars, I don't think, easily 6 athletes, or 6 people per athlete, I
Yep.
think. Again, I don't speak for Mr. Mind, but I think that would be certainly doable.
Well, I think it's good for the general public to know the information we have available. Out of the 10 Northeast Conference traditional teams, not including us, only 3 schools are open. That's it. Those schools are Sisseton, Hamlin, and Groton. After that, if you're planning this year to go to Britton Hecla, it's 6 passes per rostered name. Clark, Willow Lake is parents only, period. No minors, no students, parents only. Dual is parents and student body only. Millbank is parents only. Redfield is 4 passes and masks are mandatory. Roncalli is household and student body. Teoshpa is 4 passes. So, it's really clear, the majority of the school, 70% of the schools have decided to take some type of limiting action, and half of those schools are going, just parents, which is quite limiting. So we're actually, I would say, on the more aggressive middle of the road right now with our current policy. I wouldn't have a problem with giving Jim and Adam the authority to modify that number if necessary without calling a special meeting based upon facts and circumstances in the community.
I agree.
I would agree with that. I'd just ask Jim to keep doing what you already do. Just keep us informed. If you're gonna make an adjustment, just send us an email and let us know so we don't get blindsided by it.
You'll know when the phone rings.
Yeah, and I'd also like to put out for the public knows too, Jim has done an excellent job of keeping us advised of everything that is going on in the school in relation to COVID. The emails have been excellent.
Yes.
I have never felt blindsided by an issue, and the public needs to know that your administration here is going above and beyond and doing an excellent job of trying to keep this place open. That's the key thing. I watched last night on Kellerland, and Pierre talked about how many times it's closed and their distance learning, and Rapid City's now forming a task force to determine how they're going to go to phased in distance learning or anything, different items like that. Smaller school districts have had that. Thank you to Jim, Mr. Case, Lori, everybody that is working in the administration. Thank you also to the public. Those of you that are volunteering to be substitute teachers, we couldn't do it if it wasn't for our substitute teachers this year. I think we've been ice skating kind of close to thin ice on a few occasions on whether or not we could get enough substitutes in the school, and hopefully we can get there. But we are doing our best as a school board to give the tools to the administration and the staff. Bottom line, every day these children are in school, it's a better day for the children, it's a better day for their families, and it's a better day for our community. I really believe that. And so, thank you.
I would add too, the staff, I know it's a wearing thing on them. There are quite a few students that are absent due to quarantine, and that requires lessons for the kids that are in the classroom as well as the students that are at home. And so we've been managing on a day-to-day basis. It's one day at a time, and it's really been it's wearing on all of us as a society, I think. So,
I agree, and I want to be clear, most certainly having the staff, I mean, couldn't do it without them, and we'd be remiss if we did not mention that. All right, anything else we've got on activities, gentlemen? If not, motion to adjourn?
So move.
Thank you, Joel. Second?
Second.
Thank you, Marty. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. See you in a week and a half.